Everybody sing that shit.
Right. Welcome to another episode of the Breakdown podcast. We have
Thank
today
you, Billy.
Vincent Benedict. Many people have asked me, can you please do a podcast with Vincent Benedict? For years, people have said, like, talk to Vincent Benedict. Here he is, the man himself.
Thank you, Billy, and great to see you. I've heard about you as well. In fact, I just mentioned that I did a video about you at one time a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I remember.
But I'd never ever met you, never spoken to you. But we seem to have the same interests. So
It seems that way.
I did one for you, but I must listen to it again to see what I was talking about.
Yeah, if you were rabbiting on. The good thing for me is that every time somebody mentions you or somebody recommends you, you're like known as one of the good guys. The guys
thank you.
that is doing the right thing, not charging astronomical prices, and looking out for people's best interests.
Well, at the moment, Billy, you know about the virus and everything. What I was thinking, what could I do to help people? Because people with anxiety have a level of suffering which is far higher than your average person. They think of all the bad things that can happen. So what I'm doing at the moment is daily sessions, live sessions with meditation and guided relaxation and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Doing them every single day at the moment. And we've got a charge, an astronomical charge of £1. And people say, well, how long is that £1? I said, well, if we're on lockdown for 3 months or 6 months, that is all you pay. It's not per week or per month. Yeah. It's a single charge of £1. And that was just to stop people just joining and never taking part. This just gave them something that they had to do. They had to go to PayPal and pay me £1.
Yep.
And I only get 67 pence of that because PayPal take their commission, So what we're doing now is live sessions every day to try and keep people grounded, to keep them in the present instead of focusing about the future and all the things that can go wrong, because I just mentioned somebody in my family has got it at the moment. So I'm isolated now. And but the kind of job I do hasn't really changed much. My wife says I've been isolated for the last 5 or 6 years anyway, so nobody will notice any difference. So so there you are. That's what we're doing for people that are suffering at the moment who aren't my clients. There's a charge of £1, and we will look after you for if it goes on for
however
a year.
Long.
Yeah.
So are you noticing that you're getting more people reach out to you now? Because I've been saying for the last maybe week or 2 weeks that stress levels are rising, and for me personally, that was the reason behind my first ever panic attack was elevated stress. So I've got this concern that like people that don't have anxiety are getting so stressed out now, like financially, isolation, illness. Like, is there going to be an upturn in the numbers of anxiety disorders? Is that something that we're going to see from this?
Well, I don't work with people who have normal anxiety. I work with people who have a higher level of anxiety. And those kind of those people suffering from that haven't really. My work hasn't gone up in any way because when you think of people who suffer from anxiety disorders, when a virus like this hits, they will think I need help, but my income is dropping down, so I might not be able to afford a therapist. They look into the future and they'll find reasons not to reach out for help. And that's why part of the reason I just said, look, join me, it's only £1. And I will never speak to you in case you think I'm going to do a sales process. I've got about a dozen people now. I have never contacted any of them. I will never speak to them unless they come to me because I don't want them to think it's just another marketing thing to get them in. So people, my number of clients haven't changed. Nobody's joined me since this started.
Yeah.
Because I think they're worried about the future, about
Yeah.
being
I think.
able to cope, and financially they're suffering. A lot of people have lost their jobs and they can't afford a therapist as well.
I've also said that, like, because I still suffer with anxiety, and
Mm.
my levels of anxiety haven't really changed because of this, but it's because it's almost so irrational and unbelievable what's happening in the world that it's like it's just everyday thinking for someone with anxiety. We always have these catastrophes anyway, so it's like
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is just, it doesn't feel real.
Well,
So
some people actually like it, Billy. You'd be
mhm,
shocked.
mm,
I have clients who actually like it, who have OCD, who spend all day cleaning.
yeah,
And one of them said to me, Vince, I go into work and I start to clean my desk, my phone, and everything.
mm,
And everybody used to think I was weird, but
yeah.
now they're all doing it, so it's fantastic, you know.
Yeah. Well, I've noticed when I've been shopping the last couple of weekends, and like
Yeah.
with the social distancing thing, just shopping feels so much more relaxed. It's not like the
Mm.
hustle and bustle usually. So I've noticed benefits from it.
Yeah. You're not old enough, but we used to get this every Sunday when all the shops were closed.
Right. Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
used to spend time with the family. And
Hmm.
I actually like it. I like going out, and there's not many people around. The pubs and all that are closed, so there's less
Yeah.
violence in the streets.
Hmm.
Um, and I think people are nicer to each other.
I think so.
Uh, yeah, when we pass people, we try and stay away from them, but they all say hello, good
Hmm.
afternoon, and
Hmm.
and stuff like. I think I put a post the other day saying, when this is all over, we should do another. We should do 2 hours, 2 weeks isolation every year
Yeah.
to allow the earth to recuperate,
Hmm. Hmm.
stop all the fumes and gases and everything else.
It makes you,
And
yeah, see all the things that we've been taking for granted as well for
yeah,
so
yeah,
long.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah. I think it'd be a great idea. I don't think I'll be very popular, but
Yeah.
uh,
I'll vote for it. Yes.
so
So, what was it that started your journey in helping people? Did you experience anxiety yourself?
no, with me it was panic attacks.
Okay.
I'm ex-forces. I served in the Royal Air Force from 1976 to 1996. I did
Okay.
20 years. And around 1993, um, I had a problem whilst driving. I just got off the plane. I'd been in India.
Hmm.
And I got on into my car at Heathrow Airport to drive home. And something weird started happening to me.
Hmm.
I had no clue. And later on, a doctor said it was probably the change of air pressure from a
Yeah.
plane to the car. So I had problems driving, and I couldn't understand. I kept braking on the car on the motorway, which didn't impress the people behind
Yeah.
me.
I can
And
imagine.
I managed to get home okay. And then about a week or 2 weeks later, I had to drive on the motorway to join a course with the Air Force. I was going away for 3 months. And I remember coming up to a guy in front of me, and he was only doing 50 miles per hour. And I thought, why would you drive so slowly on an empty motorway? So I went over to overtake him. And as I passed him, I thought, I wonder if I'll ever get those sensations again that I
Right.
got a couple of
Hmm.
weeks ago. And you can guess what happened,
Yeah.
and then I
There
had
it
to
is.
brake, slam the brakes on, get behind him, and I pulled in somewhere because I thought it was the gases from the engine or something. I
Hmm.
know nothing.
Hmm.
I know nothing about cars, so I know there can't be any gases. But
Mm.
I thought it was gases, and couldn't find anything. So I thought maybe I'm tired. So I tried to sleep, and of course I couldn't sleep.
Hmm.
So then I tried to drive again, and it happened again. Then I phoned my wife up, and it took me about 10 hours to get to where I was going, and it should have
Right.
only taken about 3 hours.
Yeah.
And I went to the doctor, and the doctor said I was making it up.
That's
The Air
nice of him.
Force, yeah, well, nobody understood
Yeah. Yeah.
a panic
Yeah.
attack in
Mm.
1993. They thought my mother used to have them, but the doctor used to say it's your mother's nerves.
Right.
That's how they described them.
Mm.
And went to several doctors. I went to all the top psychiatrists in London because the Air Force was paying for it.
Yeah.
So there was no problem with money. went to some hypnotherapists, and I actually ended up in a mental institution for 4 days while they assessed what was happening to me. And at the end of the 4 days, they said, "You realize there's nothing wrong with you." And I said, I know there's nothing wrong with me. It's just that when I get on a motorway, something weird happens. So that's when it all started. And I've got a certificate on the wall with the date 27th of October 2011. That's when I qualified in hypnotherapy and counseling. And I did all the usual stuff that therapists do, like weight loss and smoking, and I never really felt connected to that. And then I thought one day, why don't I just do something that I know something about, like panic attacks? Because I'd gone through it for like nearly 20 years. And that's when I decided that that's the area I was going to specialize in. Because I understood where people, what they were feeling and why it was happening to them. And that's when I started working with them, so.
Yeah, it's hard to find somebody that specializes in anxiety or panic attacks. Like, that's the issue that I've always found. When you're looking through the yellow pages or on Google for a therapist, it's like grieving.
It's not a
all
good,
kinds of stuff.
The reason why you don't get a lot of people doing it, Billy, is financially it's a disaster. That's all I can say. Because the majority of people I work with can't work. They don't have an income. They're on benefits. So I can't, I'll never make. I would, if I'd stayed in. I used to do weight loss. I made a lot more money on weight loss because people, they have jobs and they have money, but people with agoraphobia and stuff like that is very difficult for them to be financially stable enough to pay someone like me. So it's a financial disaster. Don't go into it.
Whoops. But you also do like one-to-one stuff. You actually go see people and.
Well, I've only been to see a few people because most people who want one-to-one tend to be agoraphobic or have some sort of problem like that. So, I do. I've got mixed up there. I do see people here, but I go to their house as well because they're suffering from agoraphobia. They can't leave their house as well. I like, the best part of my job is when I take people out of their comfort zone that they've created themselves and take them somewhere that would normally have caused them a problem. And
I've seen a few of your videos that you've posted where you've been out with people. I think for me personally, I had CBT on the NHS. It was a long time ago now that I had this one particular bout of CBT. But in one of the sessions, some lady came in and took me out for a walk. And I've always said, like, I benefited most from that one session, just having somebody there with me, because I was agoraphobic, and it just helped me so much knowing that. But it was scary. The next session I was supposed to go, she told me that we'll go and do that again, but I didn't go because I was petrified of having to go and do it again. But when I look back now, hands down, that was the most effective form of treatment for me at the time.
I did a video of one lady, and it might be the one that you saw. I'm not sure. And she'd been to a counselor for a year, every week for a year, and she paid like £120 a session every week for a year. And I said to her, what's the problem? And she said, I have a problem with going into supermarkets. I have these attacks. And I said to her, how many times did your counselor take you into a supermarket? And she said, never. We just sat and talked for a year, and it cost her like, I think it was 6,000 something pounds or something.
Wow.
And so she came to me as a last resort. And after our second session, So she was paying me £45 a session. We're on to £90 now as opposed to 6,000. £90. I said to her, what are you doing now after the session? And she said, nothing. I said, let's go for a drive. And she said, okay. So we went out, and I said to her, I said, what's the biggest supermarket in the whole area? And she went, oh no, you're not taking me into a supermarket. And I said, it's Tesco's Direct, isn't it? And she said, yes. I said, let's go and have a look at Tesco's Direct. And we sat outside, and there's this massive building. And, you know, and I said, this building freaks you out, doesn't it? And she said, yes. I said, if I got a brick, you know, and there were some bricks lying there. And I said, if I got a brick and showed this brick to you, would this brick freak you out? And she said, no, it's just a brick. I said, yeah, but if I got 1 million of these bricks and put a sign on the top saying Tesco's Direct, would that freak you out? And she said, obviously, I can't go into Tesco's Direct. And I said, that shows how rational the whole thing is, doesn't it? So what I'd done was I taught her a technique of how to more or less talk to herself. And I gave her something to distract herself. I said, there's my mobile phone. I want you to video Tesco's Direct for me, you know. So we walked in, and she walked around with a video with my mobile phone, and we talked about all the amazing stuff that was for sale. And we went around the whole of Tesco's Direct and came back to the front again. And I said, how do you feel? And she said, I just can't believe I've just done that. You know, it's been a year since I've been able to do that. I said, that's fantastic, because I see they've got a cafe here. I'm going for a coffee, but I want you to go around again on your own and keep videoing it. So she went round again, and then she came back for a coffee, and we sat there for half an hour in a cafe that previously she would never, ever have dreamt of going into, you know. And the next day she sent me a text saying, Vince, I can't believe it, I've been shopping again. So I told her that she had to keep going every day for a week just to see what, you know, just to drum it into her brain that there was nothing to be scared of. It probably cost her a lot of money in shopping, and she probably introduced panic buying, you know, but I'm sure she's still doing well, because I never heard from her again.
It was that video that I watched, and there
was it? Okay.
I love watching other people's experiences and stories. Like, that's why I share mine, so people can try. But there was something that you said in that video that it was just one of those little nuggets of gold, and it was that you said, if I took the roof off this place, and it was just like an open air market, you probably wouldn't have a problem with it. And when I was listening to that, I thought, no way, like that. If you was to think like that in Asda, because Asda is my big supermarket here, and I hate it. But like, I was thinking to myself after I heard you say that, if I took the roof off and it was just open air, like what a bit of metal on the top of a lid is what's freaking me out.
Yeah. But when you think about it, these buildings that scare us they're just bricks and bits of metal, you know, that they don't have any. When whoever invented bricks didn't say, I'm going to invent a brick that gives someone panic attack. You know, a brick doesn't have that power to do anything, but it's a connection that we make with our brain to that brick, which causes the problem. So, I think I'm the only guy that does it around here, you know, exposure. I will take anybody anywhere. The only thing I can't do, and that's because of my insurance company, is I can't take people driving. They won't allow me to do it. But anything else, I take people on trains, undergrounds. You know, I have to go to London sometimes and take people on the underground. There's another video of me, in fact, doing a lift. There was a lady who came from London, and she was scared of lifts. So we did that. Then we went to, I think it was Debenhams, and we went up and down that lift all day till we got thrown out. And then we went to Marks and Spencer's until the shopkeeper, you know, people working in there started watching what the hell was going on. Because I would put them in the lift. I was putting her on the lift on her own. I said, there's no point me being in the lift with you, because that's the false, you know. So she went into the lift on her own. Then I would have to run up the stairs and meet the lift up there. And I'd say, how do you feel? She'd say, I feel really amazing. I said, brilliant, get back in that lift and I'll run down the stairs. And we kept doing that. And eventually we always got asked to leave. But, but that took one afternoon. Yeah, it took one afternoon, and she didn't have that problem again.
It is amazing, isn't it? It's amazing. I suppose, is that geared more towards like specific phobias, though? What about for somebody that's agoraphobic? I suppose you could just go to their house and like walk around the block or whatever it is. Just
I've done that, but I've also done. For instance, I had a client in Ontario, I think it was, in Canada, and it was heavy snow. And I used to say to him, I need you to go out for a walk around the block. You know, he hadn't been outside the house for a long time. And he would say, yeah, I'll do that. I'll say, no, I want you to do it now.
Yeah.
And he'd go, what do you mean? I said, put your FaceTime on. I want to watch you. I want to see where you live. I want to see the neighborhood. So we went for a walk, the two of us, around the area, around the block. Yeah. So I knew what he was doing. And then I would speak to him whilst he was doing it. And I've also done people driving a car hands-free. They just put their phone there, and if they have a problem with driving the car, I can talk to them, whilst they're driving.
It's interesting that you do that, because we're quite devious, like anxiety sufferers. Like if you were my therapist, I'd say, I'll go for a walk tonight. Yeah, and you know deep down that he ain't going to go for a walk.
Yeah, so that's why I did it. That's why I did it virtually, to make sure they did it.
I wonder why, because like I know that would be good for me. So what is it? Is it? I guess it's fear that stops us from, like, if you weren't on that video call with him in Canada, what is stopping him from wanting to get better? Although we want to. It's the fear.
Well, it's Your brain is so chaotic at the time, Billy. If I go back to driving on a motorway, okay? When you're driving on a motorway, you have an attack. It happens because your mind isn't looking for traffic lights or houses or pedestrians. Nobody gets panic attacks when they're driving in a town. Very rarely. I've never heard of it. It's always on a big, wide place where there is not much to think about, and then your mind wanders off with some negative thought. And if you think of it as like a little voice at this, like a conscience or an angel or whatever you want to call it, a little voice, and that voice's duty is to protect you and look after you and make sure you're safe. Because if you die, then that voice dies as well. So when you have your attack, that voice looks for the danger, so it can tell you whether to run away or fight the attack. So when it looks out on a motorway and it doesn't see what's causing your panic, what's triggered it, it makes a really, really important decision that affects you for the rest of your life till one day you deal with it. And it makes that decision. It looks around and it goes, Vince has triggered his fight or flight, but I can't see where the danger is. So obviously the whole motorway must be dangerous, because that's all I can see. So from now on, anytime he goes near a motorway, I'm going to trigger his fight or flight, because obviously this motorway is dangerous. So my job is now to protect him, and I'll do that by making him avoid the motorway. So every time I try to get near a motorway, even as a passenger, something would trigger my fight or flight, and I would find an excuse not to go in the car. And, but so when I say to people, tomorrow I'm going to take you for a walk in a supermarket, there's a good chance they're not going to turn up, because that voice at the back of your head would say, I'm going to trigger his fight or flight, so he doesn't turn up for the appointment and go into the supermarket. So like that lady who we went to the supermarket with, she had no idea I was going to do it.
Just out of the blue.
She probably thought, Yeah, she probably thought I was going to see her 10 or 20 times first. But I did it after the second session, and she never paid for another session after that. She was okay after that. Once we convinced the brain that actually it had made a mistake and there was nothing to be scared about, and the brain accepted it.
It's all about that anticipation. The longer you've got to think about it, or the build-up.
Yeah.
It's certainly the same for me. I know that through experience. If I do things just without thinking, I'm trying to think what the word is. What's the word when you do it without thinking?
It's anticipation anxiety, but if you do it like instantaneously without, it's happened to me once where I've just got in a car and gone, and I thought, oh my God, I can't believe I've just driven that, and when you start doing things instantly, when you start doing things without thinking about it,
spontaneously.
Which one?
Spontaneously. That's the one.
Yeah. When you start doing things without thinking about it, then that you're on the road to recovery.
Yeah.
When I started driving on roads, which a few weeks ago would have caused me serious problems, but I drove it. And then when I got to the other side, I thought, oh my God, I can't believe I've just driven on that road, which previously would have caused me problems. Then I knew that things were starting to change.
So for you, was it all about driving, or did it spill into, like, did you ever become agoraphobic, or?
Yeah, I had a form of agoraphobia. I wasn't confined to home, thank goodness, at any time, but I was scared of situations that caused me problems. So the mistake I made when I had the problem with driving was I started speaking to people who had other problems, like being on a plane, being on a train, being in Tesco's. I had a problem with Tesco's once. And when I went on a plane, I thought, this is where Jeff Capes, the strongest man in the world, has panic attacks. I wonder if I'll have one. And of course, that was it. I went down that route. And then with trains, if you ever read my life story, I had a horrendous journey once. One of the I was going to a meeting to do a presentation for members of the Houses of Parliament. I was a manager of a project, and I had an attack on the train, and it had really bad consequences for me. So I did the presentation. It went down really well, but things happened on the train that were really embarrassing during the attack.
Okay. Yeah, public transport's been an issue for me for a long time. I think the last train I went on was like in Dartmouth. Was it Dartmouth? I think there was a train from like Brixham or Paynton to Dartmouth or something like that. And then when you got there, you had to get a ferry across the whatever it was. Ignore my dog. She likes hijacking these podcasts. Yeah, that was the last time I went on trains or boats, and that was many years ago. I wonder what it is. What is it about that? Is it that we can't escape, or that we're not in control? Is it like a control thing, do you think?
It's being in a situation where it's very difficult to get help. So people that have a fear of flying, I've had several clients who've gone on these courses at the airports, fear of flying course.
Yeah.
And it's been a complete disaster. And then they've come to me because people with panic attacks don't have a fear of flying. Correct. They have a fear of having an attack on the plane. It's two different things.
I've always said that because I've never flown, or I've flown when I was little. But like since I've had this issue, it's like it's not a fear of flying. It's a fear of not being able to fix myself. Whatever it is that I need to do. But I'm just as scared as the check-in, because there might be a massive queue. Like it makes no difference.
Yeah. So airports are very, very scary places, for people with anxiety disorder. There's lots of people there. You don't know where to go to if you need help when you're at the airport, But actually, a plane is the safest place in the world. And the most scary part of the dangerous part of the journey is not the plane; it's the taxi. getting you to the airport, because you've got more chance of the taxi having a problem than the plane. And when you're on the plane, all the staff know how to handle a panic attack, because it happens all the time. They're all first aid trained, and they know how to deal with it. And I tell people, I say to them, if you were in a big room and there was a television there, there was a toilet there, and somebody would bring you food whenever you wanted it, somebody would bring you drinks whenever you wanted it, would that really frighten you? Would that scare you? And they go, no, that'd be great. That wouldn't cause me any
problem. The lifestyle we want.
That's a plane. I've just described a plane to you. It's actually a very safe place.
Yeah.
And I've had several clients who've managed to get on the plane and get to go on holidays. I have a lady in Ireland who regularly flies over to watch, I think it's Rangers, I'm not sure,
right.
Celtic, one of the big teams. And she comes over to with her family to watch football matches. But I have to talk to her before she gets on the plane, or the night before, to get her in the right frame of mind.
It's so interesting that you just framed the plane like that. If you were sitting in a room, because that's completely what it depends on, is what you're telling yourself before you do any of this stuff. Like supermarkets, if you're telling yourself that it's going to be a disaster and I'm going to freak out in the fruit and veg aisle, then you're 99% likely to freak out when you're there.
Yeah.
A lot of it depends on what story you're telling yourself.
That's why the main message I've told people over and over and over and over again is get a therapist. Don't go out and buy a book. You wouldn't go out, and if you were trying to learn to drive, you wouldn't try and do it from a book.
No.
You'd get a driving instructor. So why on earth would you go out and buy a book and think that's going to sort out your panic attacks? Because, there's lots of really good books. I told you my office is full of them. There's classics like, Dr. Claire Weekes and all that, which are fantastic books. But when you have a bad day, you can't phone Dr. Weekes up and say, look, I'm having a really bad day. Can you just speak to me for 10 minutes on Skype and tell me, just how to refocus and reground myself. So, all these programs that are for sale, I don't really call them programs. I call them books.
Because, that's pretty much what they are.
Yeah, that's what you're paying £150 for. You've just bought a book for £150. And if you want to phone somebody up to ask them for help, a lot of them are charging £60-70 an hour to speak to someone. That the therapist should be part of the cost that you've paid for the whole program. You've already paid a fortune for a book. Why should you pay extra for someone to explain it to you or help you get over something? So I've always said, get someone who's experienced, preferably someone who's had an attack in the past and understands what you're talking about, because a lot of therapists don't understand. I've had therapists saying to me, what's the big deal, Vince? Surely all you have to do is show them how to get more confidence. And I'm going, look, if it was a matter of confidence, we wouldn't be suffering from this. Because, superstars like Madonna have had panic attacks. Jeff Capes, Dennis Bergkamp played for Arsenal. They all had panic attacks. You wouldn't say they were lacking in self-confidence.
No.
So, it's completely different. It's something that, it just happens to anyone. It could, it could happen to the Prime Minister. He's got the virus now. You wouldn't think he'd get it, but he's got it, and it's the same with panic attacks. Anybody can get it. It's nothing to do with being weak or lack of confidence or anything.
I think going back to the books thing, like for me, it's like short-term gains from a book. Like I can read a Claire Weekes book or whatever, and then for a couple of days or maybe a week after that, I'll be on a high. I've built a bit of confidence and I'll be willing to try stuff. But as soon as that doubt starts creeping in, that little nagging voice, or you have a setback or a sensation that throws you off, like the book may as well just be in the recycling. But where, like you say, if you've got somebody to call, like a therapist who knows, I think there's way more value in that.
I think when we suffer from panic attacks, especially at the beginning when we just had our first 1 or 2 attacks, you're desperate to latch onto something. You're desperate to find a reason for this happening. So you go onto Facebook and somebody will say, try this CBD oil, it will get rid of your attacks. Try this vitamin. When I had my attacks, I went for testing, doctor, and he came back and he said, you're lacking in magnesium. I thought, fantastic.
That's
I went
the
to
answer.
Holland and Barrett, and I said, just give me everything with magnesium in it. I'll take the lot. And I came back, panic buying or what? Panic buying. And I took everything with magnesium in it, and I took everything, and nothing worked. It's just nonsense. But we are desperate to latch on to something, and we're desperate, unfortunately, due to our modern way of living. We're looking for a fast cure.
Yeah, quick fix.
And when you see an advert saying 100% guaranteed cure, and tomorrow you'll be out flying a plane or whatever he's promising you. All of these are rubbish, and all of them are nonsense.
Yeah, that was the same thing that happened with me like 15 years ago. Had a panic attack, didn't know what was going on. It took me maybe a month or so of heightened anxiety and probably more panic attacks. I went to see my doctor, got offered medication, weren't keen on that, so I went to the internet, then bought a expensive method that cost me like 120 quid, I think. But that was like a promise to cure me. But like 15 years on, I still didn't get my money back. But
no. But I wonder who that was. Anyway, but we've all been there, because we will try anything, and it's easy to put out an advert saying 100% cure guaranteed, or your money back, and suddenly you'll have 1,000 clients. But I said that all that will do, if I ever try that, is give me lots of grief, and I wouldn't be in business for very long before my name would be muddied with all the other guys that are doing this sort of thing.
I think it's not to say that that doesn't work for some people. It's just that when it didn't work for me, like it's like you say, the 100% this will work. If it don't work for you, then you're doing it wrong. Like that's when it's an issue. Because for some people, hypnotherapy works, and for some people it doesn't. I mean, there are people out there that say CBD does work for them. So how come we can't argue with that?
No,
if it does work for them. Like,
I think
it doesn't
CBD,
work for me.
with CBD, a lot of people get confused between stress and anxiety.
Yeah.
So when you feel calm, you think, oh, it's worked, but actually, is it getting you out of the house? Is it getting you on the motorway? Is it getting you into the supermarket? Which is completely different level of a disorder.
And how much of it is just like a placebo thing? Same with reading a book. Like maybe for a week after, because I use CBD, I vape CBD constantly, and it makes no difference. Like I've said it so many times, makes no difference to my anxiety levels at all.
Okay.
So, there's your proof. There's your feedback.
Okay.
If you want more. I don't know. What about medication? What's your thoughts on medication, antidepressants, stuff like that?
I've never been on medication. When I had my attack, I was put on something for my balance organs, I think it's called, for my the psychiatrist thought it was, I don't know what it was, and obviously nothing worked. So I've never, ever been on medication. I never give medical advice. I send, as soon as if I have a client phoning me up, first thing I say to them, have you been to the doctor? Make sure. And I have nothing against medication. Sometimes you need medication to stabilize yourself. It's because your mind is so chaotic. I tell people, go and see a doctor, and if he says you need to go on medication, I say to them, follow the doctor's advice. He's the expert. But I would say to you, say to the doctor, okay, I'll take this medication. do you think it would be good to work with a therapist as well at the same time? And then if you come back to me, I'll take you on as a client, or the doctor can refer you to a CBT therapist to help you rather than a counselor. I prefer the CBT therapy.
Yeah. What sort of feedback do you get from clients as to how doctors are handling when they first go and see them? Do you think doctors are getting better? Are they more aware now, or?
I think doctors are still set in their ways to follow a certain routine. So I know a doctor who, if you went to with a panic attack, she would put you on antidepressants straight away.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, when it happened to a member of her family, she sent that member to me.
Really?
Yeah. And I thought, well, the depressants are okay for everybody else, but when it's a member of your family, you're thinking twice about putting them on it. You're sending them to a specialist like myself.
Yeah, that's pretty mad.
Yeah.
So do you follow CBT methods?
I didn't know there were CBT methods, some of them, the things I do, because I did my neuro-linguistic programming course, and a lot of that is similar to CBT.
Right.
So I've never studied CBT. I did a lot of stuff that worked for me. I put them in my therapy, and then I added stuff to it, like the meditation and relaxation and the ring of confidence technique that I use, and so I tried to make it better than it was. I've never thought of going down the CBT, getting a qualification or something. But people have described stuff that they've done with CBT therapists, and I do something similar to that.
Right.
So there are, there are a lot of other therapies like, for post-traumatic stress disorder and things like that. You've got EMDR, you've got the BLAST technique by Nick Davis. In fact, I was about to go on one of his courses before this virus started. And, so mine is the way I work. I won't cure everything because I can't possibly. And if you've got severe post-traumatic stress disorder, I would just say go and speak to a doctor or find someone who does EMDR or the BLAST technique or something, because they're better at it than I am. I wouldn't, I wouldn't pretend to be an expert in everything.
Yeah, because I've experienced CBT a few times now through the NHS, and I've never had a great experience with it. So I just wondered if, you get feedback from people saying that they've not had a great time.
I think the problem with CBT is the financial side and the way it's handled, because a lot of people who get CBT, believe it or not, they get it over the phone.
That's what recently, I had 6 sessions last year, I think it was, and that was all on the phone.
Yeah, and or they'll get like half a dozen sessions with a therapist, and the therapist will only see them like once every couple of weeks or once a month, and you'll give them homework. And I've said, so I think if you saw a therapist every single week, maybe it would be helpful.
Yeah.
But when you have a bad time, you can't phone that CBT therapist up. You have to wait for your next appointment in 2 weeks' time, which is, what I'm totally against, because if you're going through a bad period, you should have someone to talk to. And that's the way I used to feel when I was a sufferer. I used to think, I wish there was somebody I could ring up. But, if you rung them up, they'd go, I'm sorry, your appointment's in a month's time. We'll discuss it then. Go, wow.
Yeah, in my experience, it's been like, I'll know myself that I need some help. So I'll call the NHS, whatever it is, IAPT, and then I'll have to wait for that initial telephone consultation before I can have anything. But it's at that point when I'm first phoning the IAPT, that's when I need access to help, because that's when I'm my most vulnerable, and I'm saying I need some help, not, hi, can you fit me in for some help in 3 months' time?
Yeah. And the other thing is, you have to get the client at the right time. They've got to be ready to change their life, to change the way they're thinking, to change, well, everything they're going through. And if you get to that stage and then you contact your doctor, and he says, of course you can't have an appointment, it'll be in about 6 months' time. In 6 months' time, you might have fallen off the cliff and given up all hope. So you've got to be able to see someone when you're at the right stage in your life to do something about it.
Imagine if you broke your leg and you had to phone them and say, yeah, we'll call you back in 2 weeks for a consultation, just to see if we think you need.
Yeah. Unfortunately, people with these sort of problems aren't treated the same as people with physical problems, and they're both very, very severe problems. But because you can't see it, people don't think it's as important. So
it's crazy, because we see so much, like the royals, Prince William, Prince Harry, like they do so much for it, like raising awareness and stuff, but it just doesn't translate to services. That's my experience. So many people know so much more about it now. Like, you can say, I struggle with anxiety, and 50 other people will put their hands up and say, yeah, but okay, where do you go and get help for it?
And the help, if you do get it with a therapist, tends to be very, very expensive. That's the problem. And people who never experienced an attack don't really have any training for it. They've just gone out and bought a book and regurgitating it, and they're charging like £100 a session. And they can't really justify what they're charging, and just the price there, it gives, if you've given somebody false hope, it will just increase their anxiety. Because most people, I think, most clients can tell if you actually know what you're talking about, if you're actually sincere, or whether they're just being taken for their money. So
it happens too often. Have you got anything else you want to cover? Anything you want to add to? Any stories you want to share?
Stories?
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I mean, I could talk all day about people that I worked with. I had a guy who was stuck in a bedroom.
Really?
Believe it or not. Yeah, upstairs in our room, and his wife and kids were downstairs. He was agoraphobic, and the only place he could go to was the toilet upstairs. And so all his food had to be brought up to him. But when he contacted me, this is when I first started, from scratch. And he contacted me, and he didn't have any money, so we worked for free, more or less. And but he was one of these guys that when you said something, he just did it.
Right.
And if I say to him, "This is what I need you to do, and this is how you will feel," it always happened exactly like that. He had one of these attitudes. Oh, Vince said this, so this will happen.
He believed in you.
Yeah. And within a couple of weeks, he was out of that bedroom, out of the house, and he was teaching football, believe it or not. And then he started his own business. He became a window cleaner, and his whole life changed just because of his attitude. He was at the right place at the right time. And and that worked really well. I had a guy in America who was agoraphobic, stuck in a caravan. And one day I said, "Put your phone on. Let's see if we can go for a walk somewhere." And we went outside, and he said, "I can't believe I'm in such a beautiful park, and I didn't really notice all these trees and flowers and everything." And I managed to get him out of the caravan, and next minute, he was going to visit his children and stuff like that. He just needed, it's not a miracle cure or anything. He just needed someone to talk to him, because he was in America. He couldn't afford a therapist to come to the caravan, so he just needed someone to go through it with him and explain what was happening in his brain And he said, "Yep, that's how I feel. I'm going to try it now because I need to get out of this caravan," and it worked. So there's lots of positives, lots of successes.
How does it make you feel when you hear like what the work that you're doing is having such a positive impact?
Obviously I love it because there's no other reward for it. It's not a financial reward. And that guy in the caravan was free. You know, he had no income, no insurance. We can't accept the American insurance. So that was wonderful, and I got him to send me lots of photographs of him and his children and everything, going for drives and things like that. And that's why I love doing exposure therapy. I love doing it. I know that nobody else does it around here, so I do it because it shows I'm confident in what I do.
I think it's the most. I know for a fact, for me, it was the one thing that helped me get out of being stuck in the house. It wasn't about what I was reading or what I was hearing other people say. It was about me getting off my backside and getting out.
Yeah.
Massive.
But, it works, and it's just loads of techniques I've built up over the ages that I ask people to try and follow, and then see the consequences. And we don't get 100% success, but I do get 100% of people who say they feel better after seeing me.
Yeah.
Nobody's sort of gone worse or anything like that. People just, even if you just give them a bit more confidence, a bit more calmness, just to explain to them why it's happened to them. That I remember being on holiday in Egypt, and this man found out what I did, and he came to speak to me, and I explained to him that he would never die from it. And he was just so happy. He was convinced that he could drop dead one day from these panic attacks, So people do feel better once you improve their knowledge a little and explain to them that it's not a serious disease that they're going to die from, that it's in the right circumstances, those sensations are completely harmless. And, we go to gyms and we pay a lot of money to join every month to make our heartbeat faster on the treadmill. And at the end of it, we feel fantastic. We've had a great workout. But if you take that heart and put it on a sofa watching the news or something, and your heart beats faster, your brain, that little man in your head, freaks out, saying, "What is it? Where's the danger?" But it's the same heart beating faster, but one freaks us out and the other one we're happy about because we can explain why it's happening.
Yeah. That's the thing. Yeah, it's just not knowing why these things start. But it means the same thing. Like if it can cope after exercise, it can cope while you're sitting there.
Yeah, exactly. And people like Mo Farah, their heart beats faster than any of our hearts will ever beat, and he survives. So our heart can beat faster. I think some doctor said it's for a couple of weeks before you would have a problem. Yeah. So
there you go. I reckon we've about covered it.
Okay.
So if people want to learn more about your stuff, where is the best place to find you? Is it on Facebook?
Find me on Facebook. It's facebook.com/eliminatepanic. That's for the general public. But I have another, if they enroll to work with me, then I have another Facebook page, which is a private page, so I can work people in confidence with them, so that nobody knows what's going on in that group.
So, I'll stick a link in the description of this video, and
anybody wants thank you very much.
If anybody wants Vincent, taking him to the supermarket.
No problem. Yeah. So
thank you very much for joining me. I'm conscious that we've got through a podcast without actually talking about coronavirus, which is pretty impressive.
No, I mentioned it at the beginning.
Yeah, but we didn't. Yeah, but we didn't go full on. We didn't go full on. That's good. I'm impressed.
Okay.
super job.
All right.